Hello, and welcome to our weekly digital strategy chat brought to you by Denver Data Web. We are a digital strategy company, so we help our clients overcome their unique challenges with a goals focused approach to web development, web design, and digital marketing. My name is David Zaga. I'm a digital strategist here with Denver Data Web. And with me today, we also have Sarah.
I'm Sarah Joswiak. I'm a digital marketing analyst at Denver Data Web.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. And thank you, everybody, who's joining us today. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about trust. This is a really fascinating topic to me. And to us all, really. It's a key factor, actually, in digital marketing and sales. So we're going to dive into that, have some really interesting points I think everybody's going to take something away with. And additionally, if you have any questions, please feel free to chime into the comments or chat. So we love everybody following along with that. So yeah, this topic this week. Everybody knows what trust is, right? But do you really know how to leverage it to its fullest as part of your digital strategy? So that's what we're going to talk about. Essentially marketing, trust, and some practical ways to execute on your marketing to foster those things. So why even talk about that in the first place, right? So we talk to people all the time about marketing, digital strategy, business development, because those things are all really intertwined. And there seems to be a lot of different points of view on these things. We wanted to share ours really because we've certainly come to know a lot of the years. And furthermore, why really talk about trust? Now, over time, I've realized and come to recognize that trust plays a role in everything. Right? Certainly in our personal lives, but also in business too. And my own ideas, believe it or not, and trust have changed. Through my own experiences, through things we've learned from clients, through how various business relationships have developed. And I think these ideas are so worth talking about. If my ideas have shifted, if our understanding as a company and how we do marketing has shifted over time, and for the positive, it might be that that's going to be the same for others, right? So, what is the purpose of marketing? A lot of folks, I believe, fixate on marketing as a vehicle for generating leads, believing that if their business model revolves around producing leads through personal relationships and networking, then maybe marketing doesn't serve a lot of benefit. Now, I don't agree with that point of view necessarily. There's a lot of ways that marketing can impact your business. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing how important networking is from a business development standpoint, but I think many of the businesses in that kind of realm, you know, ignoring marketing is going to be to their detriment. Keep in mind, like I said, marketing encompasses so many different things. There may not be this concrete separation of one thing, like where marketing is, and then when it becomes networking, right? A lot of ways when you're at a networking meeting, at some kind of event or something like that, that could be considered a marketing type of behavior too. But really, at like a basic level, I consider marketing as where you have these kind of one-to-many types of engagements, right? Being able to reach many people in an audience through this channel or this contact or this engagement that you're structuring, right? And it's not always about generating leads. Sometimes you can improve your sales and business development and your process around those, even for converting referrals, right? So if your business is focused on that, marketing can still impact those things. But ultimately, what is marketing doing? When you want to impact the point of view that an audience of potential customers have, well, marketing is playing a big piece there. And why would you want to do that? Well, maybe you want them to take action. Maybe you want them to buy your product, so you can help them, so they can help themselves. Ultimately, so you both mutually can achieve your goals. In its most basic terms, marketing is about impacting the beliefs, the understanding, the point of view of that audience that you're trying to reach. And we kind of say that's kind of what we're doing here. We like doing these digital strategy chats because it helps us talk through challenges and issues that we perceive, topics that we think are beneficial to other people out there in the community. But it gives us, platform, right, to help shape people's points of view. And so this, to some degree, is a marketing activity. So we talk about getting people to take action, using marketing. What keeps people from taking action in the first place? Well, fears. They may have constraints they're working around, some kind of risk that they're worried about or trying to mitigate. Not having sufficient trust, whether it's in your brand or you in particular, like if you're a salesperson, they get them to take that leap of faith to go past those things, right? That's where trust comes into play here. And so, kind of getting into the idea of like trust and marketing and sales. I think a lot of people probably gather that, sales involves a great deal of trust. But marketing has an impact on trust as well. And so what do we think about trust? I imagine most people probably they probably think they know what trust is, and I'm not going to try to say, "Hey, you don't know what trust is," right? Um, but how can you work with trust to help further your goals in a good way, right? There's a few different ideas around trust that I have come to believe very firmly on, and they help shape how this stuff can play out. So first of all, I don't see trust as a binary thing. A lot of times people say, "Oh, they're not trustworthy," or "I trust this person." I don't really see it. I see trust as on a spectrum. So um, you might trust a person to a certain degree, to a certain amount, rather than either trust or not trusting. And and one reason I think that plays out is because trust exists in context to what is happening, what you're trying to do, and the relationship there. So another point there is trust is not really universal. I believe trust is ultimately between, two people, or there has to be maybe a person can sort of have some trust in a brand, but that's their personal thing. You can't have trust between two organizations, right? Ultimately it's like the people and the stakeholders of those organizations trust another person. um, but that trust, like I mentioned just a moment ago, it's based on the context of scenarios involved. And trust is not static, right? It's something that can grow or shrink over time. um, you don't just, maybe I trust this person, but things happen, things change, you learn new things, or you have new constraints, new things in your life, and that maybe your risks are higher, so maybe you don't, the amount you trust somebody might shift. And so like I might trust my neighbor with borrowing a power tool out of my garage, but I might not trust him with babysitting my babies, right? That kind of thing. um there's a time like my brother let me borrow his really expensive like Norco mountain bike, and I was much younger, a little less knowledgeable about what things were worth than when I was a kid, and yeah, it got stolen, got like swiped right off my porch, and he's not letting me borrow a bike since. Right now, he's a little crappy, little rinky-dink bike that says gathering dust. Yeah, he'll let me borrow that, but yeah, no, and that's how it is. Like, it's not that like my brother thinks I'm an untrustworthy person. It's just, that means a lot to him, and that's how it goes. So yeah, trust is not a binary thing. Trust changes over time. Trust is ultimately between people. Now, where does this all fit with marketing and sales and things like that? Well, you're getting people to take action, whether that's to buy a product, to begin a project or something like that with your company. There's ultimately this, I call this, this kind of gap, between the trust that they have and what they know about you and your brand, and these risks and constraints that they're working with to get to where they want to, right? So imagine taking a leap of faith, over this ravine, over this canyon, right? You need to ultimately be able to shrink that gap, that the scary thing that's in front of them, so they can take that leap. The smaller the leap of faith they have to take, the easier it is for them to take that action. And you can utilize marketing to really impact that. Either shrink the gap, you can bridge the gap, build trust, all those things, right? So shrinking the gap, those constraints and risks, they're often outgrowths of monetary concerns, limited funds, reducing the price of your product, bundling things together, being more flexible with delivery, that to some degree reduces risk, makes it easier for somebody to work with that. Bridging the gap, might be when somebody gives a referral, right? Essentially, they're helping bridge that gap by imparting some of the trust that potential prospect or that audience has in you, right? And you can leverage that. But building trust, ultimately, that's something you have also a great deal of control over, and that can help you make them feel more empowered to take that leap. And marketing can have a great deal of impact on this. So increasing the audience's level of understanding of what the product does or what you do, giving them more confidence to act, increasing their perception of your expertise. Those are all things that you can utilize marketing for, to build a person or an audience's trust in your brand and your product, so they can take that leap. So let's talk about some kind of practical examples here, Sarah. So different ways that digital marketing can impact trust, and some of the different channels that could play into that, right? So one of the things is increasing the degree that the audience, that you're working with is aware of or even familiar with your brand, right? So if
Yeah.
if they've never heard of you, they might like, well, I've never heard of these guys. Have they been doing this for a long time? Are they a known entity? Um, and that's kind of like a brand awareness thing, right? That's one of those critical areas. Like, Sarah, oftentimes when we do like pay-per-click campaigns and stuff, like we use a variety of tools with that, right, to kind of help increase impressions and how much people are seeing the ads and seeing the brand, right?
Yeah, there's a saying that you have to see a brand or experience a brand in a certain way 7 times before you work with the brand or buy something from the brand. So ways that you can do that, as David mentioned, are with the pay-per-click ads or your social media or being featured in magazines or editorials of some kind, building up your backlinks. So if more people are seeing your ads in more places, not even just on Google, but if you're using display ads, people are going to see those ads on a variety of different websites and apps across the internet. So yeah, being more present and having your brand be seen more is a great way to increase that trust. I'll go off on a tangent just a little bit. I recently, as I've mentioned before, I am a self-proclaimed online shopaholic. I recently bought something from a brand that, against my better judgment, had no internet presence whatsoever, and it turned out it was not legit. So I should have seen that ahead of time. I should have seen that brand did not have trust signals of any kind, and I should not have given them money.
Lessons learned. Oh, well. Well, I mean, you'll never do that again, right?
No, I was laughing at myself yesterday about it, actually. I was like, I can't believe I did it. Luckily, it was only $30. I wish I had that $30, but I don't think I'll ever see it again.
Yeah, marketing is power. Sometimes we have those, for some of us really steeped in this type of field, those kind of warning signals, those trust factors that aren't there, we have that come up, and yet sometimes we still look past that and take that right.
I knew what I was supposed to do, and I knew what I did wrong. So, yeah.
One of those things that can get people to take that leap is, the risk that can be there can sometimes make somebody take a leap is the risk of not being able to get this thing you want. It could be gone. It might be just available temporarily, or you have to act within a certain time period. There's other ways that, can this whole kind of shifting algorithm of like where the trust is at and whether someone will take action or not, right? If the risk of not taking action is sufficient, despite the other constraints or things involved, someone still might like take that leap, right? So understanding those things, and that's why in marketing, the fundamentals of marketing is important, but empathy, understanding what are the drivers and things that impact people and their circumstances is so critical, because when you think about those and you apply these types of concepts, then you start to think, all right, how can we help somebody feel more comfortable to do what we're hoping they'll do, right? So yeah, brand awareness, being more familiar, seeing you more presently in the realm or the channels that one would expect to see your business. That's important. Improving perception that the peers of these people in this audience have trust in your brand. So this kind of social proof concept. So if you have some friends and they like a particular product and they just like, oh yeah, I use this every day, it's great, it's the best for this kind of thing, you might be more apt to think, all right, well, yeah, maybe I'll give it a try. Now that's there's still a marketing component there when people are having a lot of their interactions and conversations with friends over social media or online or things like that, right, Sarah? So even if there's potential for someone to be very one-to-one kind of things, like, hey, you're out, assuming there's no pandemic going on, out having like drinks or something at like Applebee's with friends, and you're talking about like, oh yeah, I've got this new thing I'm using, I love it, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's like a marketing thing, but certainly like word of mouth and facilitating that, there's going to be strategies for that. But when people
word of mouth marketing, whether it's intentional or not, is so beneficial. It's one of the best ways to market, and there are ways that you can buy word of mouth marketing. I don't necessarily know if that's how what's the word I'm looking for? How ethical that is, but I know it is possible.
Yeah, no, it is a great book out there called Trust. Um, well, there's a concept of trust signals in general, but Talk Triggers is a really great book, and that that might be a good topic for a future digital strategy chat. So maybe I'll save that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Sarah, marketing can be utilized, even in like the online space to help surface what maybe friends, what they're liking, what they're recommending, but also maybe even people who you may not know, but they seem similar to the kinds of things that the kind of characteristics you have, right? Um,
Yeah. We talked a little bit yesterday on a different topic about Facebook groups or social media groups and how finding ways to work within those spaces, even to find like-minded people who are looking for a particular thing, that can open up a lot of possibilities. And I'm not 100% familiar with other platforms who have something exactly like this, but Facebook recently opened up the opportunity. You can actually join a Facebook group with your Facebook page. So in the past, it used to be that only individual Facebook accounts, personal Facebook accounts, could join these groups, and then as of recently, your own Facebook page can join the groups. So that does open up a lot of possibility, and I don't necessarily know if that's on the exact subject of trust, David, but it reminded me of it. So the like-minded people in the existing groups.
yeah, if there's other people talking about your brand on Facebook in a positive way, that's exhibiting trust that they have in that brand. And if you, as a person who's trying to make a decision whether to go with this brand, this company, that's useful information that helps build trust. I think for them, like other people like me, like them, maybe they'll be good for me too.
Mhm.
And in a more direct way, you can use things like testimonials, reviews, people reviewing, whether it's like Google reviews or on Facebook or other places, you know, portfolios or case studies of your work or projects you've done. There are all opportunities to show examples of other people exhibiting trust in you by having them have work done by you and you showing that that was the case. So yeah,
Yeah, and individual reviews like that are something that we really haven't seen until the last 20 years or so, probably give or take 5 years there. But in the past, I mean, the reviews that we were privy to were professional reviews or restaurant reviewers who do this for a living,
Mhm.
and then also word of mouth reviews. But with with online and Google reviews and social media reviews and things like that, I think um, reviews are probably the most influential trust signal that a company can have. And it seems to be more and more. I mean, I remember when I first had a smartphone, I didn't even think to look for those reviews, and now it's let's try this new restaurant. Let's look at reviews. So it's kind of become a second nature to trust those reviews of the average person. So it's yeah, absolutely reviews. I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about reputation management in the future one. So many things we can talk about. So always stay tuned every Friday, 11:30 Mountain Standard Time. So another concept, improving the perception that you're confident in your work. So, using marketing. So when and this applies in sales, like when a salesperson's confident, that's a big impact in building trust with a person that's being sold to. Um, because if you get a feeling that somebody's a little shaky, maybe they're kind of stuttering, maybe they're kind of mincing their words, they seem unconfident in what they're talking about. Well, you wonder, why? Is it because they're lying? Is it because they don't feel like they're really representing it well? I mean, that unfortunately that's a thing, right? With marketing, so that is a component of business development. Sales and marketing so often work hand in hand. um, you have opportunities to show confidence in you work that you do or the product you have to this huge group of people out there, right? So again, like portfolios and case studies, it's like, hey, here's examples of what we've done that we're really proud of. This has helped some people. It could help you too. And giving people the opportunity to review that, to witness that. um, that's very powerful. I could imagine being very hesitant, to go with like maybe a service-based company, like if they don't have any examples of them having done this work well, and people, allowing them to talk about that, because then you want to, like, have they done a good job? you know, let's see. Evidence, right? So this kind of goes along with being confident in your work, but having evidence that is perceived in a fairly neutral way, that your brand or your product excels at the type of service that it does or that you do, right? So this kind of goes along with being confident about it. But when you show off that you're confident, you're then also wanting to present examples of, hey, here is some actual evidence that we have done a good job, that we know what we're doing, that it can solve your problem. And as neutral and as unbiased as that can be is great. There's probably certain limits to that, but I think it's entirely possible with marketing to be, very neutral, because, in some cases the type of work is just show it, right? Here's what we
Yeah.
made. What do you think? We think this is great. We could do something like this for you. And testimonials are often a very powerful tool for this, because it's, as long as the testimonials are being perceived as real, and you definitely don't want to be putting fake testimonials up there. Never do that. But if you have clients and they're maybe even like a video of them talking about the product or the project, that's really powerful. I feel like social proof. And so and this goes into reviews, as you talk about, Sarah. Yeah, I totally agree. So powerful, right? And there's probably so many cases where people just jump to that nowadays. You go on Amazon. I don't even look at much of the projects. I just go straight down. What are people saying about who's bought this?
Yeah,
What is the breakdown of
exactly.
reviews? 5 to 4, 3. The 5 stars, whatever. That's
It
that's the
on
only thing I
that
look at.
same note, occasionally, I'll be researching a product and looking at the reviews, and I find out, like, you see back to back to back a whole bunch of unverified reviews all on the same day or a day apart, and that's another an antitrust signal that I noticed, that maybe those are not legit reviews. Um, I also tend to pay attention to if reviews back to back are of similar length and a similar sentence structure. You wonder, like, maybe someone has a bunch of accounts and they're leaving reviews. So
Oh
on
no.
the same note, it does build trust. It can also signal maybe this isn't trustworthy. So I mean, yeah, fake reviews are a bad idea.
They really are. When it comes down to core marketing fundamentals, just do the work. You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes doing the hard work, it does take more effort, but it often gets you better results. And there's sometimes folks want to take shortcuts. I don't know, it really pans out, but everybody's got to work within the constraints they got. But advice I give is, do the work, do it the
Do
right
the work,
way.
do a good job, and then let it build up over time. And that's one thing that's important to note. If you are just starting out, you may not have a good amount of trust signals. And at that point, just it's important to understand that over time you will, especially if you're doing it the right way. If you're, even if you're starting out by just selling to people, or, like, friends and family are purchasing things from you or working with you, having your friends or family leave reviews or testimonials, that's not a bad thing, as long as they do know the structure and the quality of your service. And that's a one way to build up from the ground up.
Definitely. So there's some easier ways to utilize marketing to help build trust with your audience. So be clear and consistent in your messaging. This can reduce confusion. You know, um, you want to be clear about your unique selling proposition, about what you're really bringing to the table, the value that your product or your brand, your service offers. Use consistent language and terminology throughout, whether you're marketing on Facebook or on your website, or advertising. You don't want to be talking in different ways all the time, because you want to really hone in on your message and make sure that people do get it. Because sometimes it takes, like you said, the 7, impressions of people seeing your brand. You want to repeat your core message each of those times, so like they can't possibly forget it. And you want to simplify your message. Being clever, I admit sometimes I get this little kick. I want to be real clever with wordsmithing and stuff, but really you want to it sometimes it can be detrimental to achieving your goal. Using words that maybe aren't usual, people don't see a lot, and they're like, "What does that mean? Who's this guy? Is he trying to be smart?" Blah, blah. Keeping it simple, being on message, being consistent. Those are really simple things, but it's really helpful. And that kind of goes into also avoid making easily avoidable mistakes in presentation. Now, hey, we're doing a live stream here today, right? So yeah, we've had sometimes like my phone rings or little notifications. This is how it is. That's okay. But when you have opportunities to really do proofreading and checking on that stuff, I mean, why not, right? I remember a while back I was shopping in Costco, and I love Costco, right? It's not we're not sponsored by Costco, but I do like Costco, right? And they have like their little technology set up at like the front of the store, and you get like monitors and computers and other stuff. And there's a setup for like I think it was like some kind of home security kind of device thing, right? And they had like a little cardboard display, and I was like, oh, this is pretty neat. Let me check this out. And I swear there was at least like 12 typos or something on that. Like that cardboard stand up there, it's not going anywhere. Like it's people are walking past that every day, and anybody stops to read is like, wow. So what do you take? What are the takeaways from that? Right? Either like this was put together by people who maybe English isn't like their first language. That's okay, right? Maybe they outsourced that overseas or something. Maybe they aren't particularly diligent. Maybe they didn't have a lot of resources to work with. I know there's a lot of things you could come to believe from that, but I don't think many of them are going to be positive. Would you, Sarah?
No, I feel like even if it did grab my attention, it may grab my attention in a negative way. It probably would grab my attention in a negative way. And so I guess the saying like no press is bad press. I guess in this situation, if you are building something that is inherently untrustworthy, then it might be.
Yeah.
I know that recently at Denver Data Web, we came up with an ad idea that turned out that we discovered pretty quickly that it may be it had a fake button on it essentially, and we discovered in-house pretty quickly that then that may be received as an antitrust signal. So that's something that if you have an idea or if you're putting something out there, it's always a good idea to run it past a few people in the company or just run it past someone else and do some vetting before you put something out there. Because if something is perceived the wrong way, it may be seen as an antitrust signal. And David, like what you were saying, like playing with words and whatnot, it may make perfect sense to you when you write it. I do that. I write down puns all the time, and I think there's no way it possibly can't be picked up. And then sometimes even I look at it on my own later, and I forget why I did it that way. So vetting your ideas with coworkers, or you just kind of like doing an in-house focus session or something is very important. Because if your coworkers and you can't perceive it properly, then the odds are that the public will have the same reaction.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So another area, we've got a few more here. Another area where marketing can be really beneficial with trust, and why you want to do this, is if you, with clear language, consistent language, simple language, on point with your message, make it easier for your audience to understand the value of what you do, what your product provides, what it can do for them. Because ultimately, this can reduce your sales cycle length, which is very important to sales, even more so with complex sales. It's one thing if it's, a $30 product, and for some folks, $30 is nothing to sneeze at. That's money, right? But what if you're the type of company that provides services where what you do costs $100,000 or something, like for a big contract, right? That's probably going to be a complex sale. It's probably not something where somebody just says, yeah, let's do it, let's go, right? No, it could take weeks, months of negotiating and things like that, right? So the more that you can leverage marketing to help people understand what you do and the value of what you do, what your product does, then they're going to feel more confident. They're going to be able to move forward through that process more smoothly, and until you get to that point where they're taking the action that you want. Content marketing, social media, those are things that can play into that. Similar to the value of what it does, helping people understand, help your audience understand the true cost of what your product is, what your product costs, or the service. So, that kind of speaks to transparency. right? So people understand, maybe there's long-term cost or cost of ownership, things like that. The more people understand the true nature of what it means to buy this thing or to work with your team or something like that, they're going to feel more comfortable, taking that leap of faith. And one of the ways I think are really good for that is demos. Sarah, I feel demos are a pretty useful component for this kind of thing, and I guess that kind of speaks to demand generation as well in marketing. But giving people a chance to give it a try,
Yeah.
that's pretty big, isn't it?
Especially I worked in the natural foods industry for years before I started working in firms. And yeah, absolutely. Getting your actual food product in front of people to try is a huge thing. Especially when in the natural foods industry, sometimes it's a very niche product or a very unique product, and sometimes a little bit more expensive. So allowing people to actually try before they buy it's huge.
And in the realm of marketing, product-led marketing and product-led development is a pretty big thing in the software as a service realm. So if you imagine things like Zoom for video
Mhm.
conferencing, that sort of thing. Like they very much incorporate a product-led approach, by letting people just try it and use it for free to a large extent. I mean, there's premium tiers to get you access to more features and stuff, but even better than a demo is, hey, you can just use our product and you like it, keep using it. And people become comfortable. There's so little risk for the potential user in that audience that taking a leap of faith is it's so small. They just, yep, I'll go and use it. If they don't like it, I'll find something else. And so the more that you can do that, it helps people to take action. So you're kind of pulling it all together here. Yeah, marketing is important for everyone. Even if you think your business is primarily working with referrals, word of mouth, and that sort of thing, marketing can be really powerful for converting those referrals into actual customers, to helping reduce the length of that sales cycle, that sort of thing. And it's just critical in general. Ultimately, marketing is going to help you with issues of trust and help you achieve your business goals. So I think that about wraps it up for today. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this video. Be sure to check out our digital strategy chats every week. They are Fridays, 11:30 Mountain Standard Time. Be sure to follow us on YouTube so you can get announcements for that. And also find us at denverdata.com for more tutorials, guides on digital strategy.
You can also find our YouTube now at denverdata.com/YouTube.
All right. Thank you. See you next time.
Thanks so much.